Common goal setting mistakes. Goal setting is just the first step in the achievement process, but it is a critical element that can set you up for success or set you on course for frustration and failure. Here are the 7 most common reasons why people fail to achieve their goals. 1. Having no compelling connection to your goal. When you make a goal, understand why you want it and what you are willing to sacrifice to get it. This book has lots of tools to help you build the proper connections to your goals. Hint: until the fear of staying put is greater than the fear of moving in the direction of your goal, you will stay put. 2. Setting daily commitments that are too challenging. As discussed above, ease yourself into taking daily action. Make your initial daily action a simple task that you know you can complete. This will lead you to taking more action day after day and put you on a course for success. 3. Not measuring progress. Progress is the fuel of persistence. If you do not make your goal measurable, then you cannot track your progress, and if you cannot track your progress, then you will not achieve your goal. No matter what your goal is, make it measurable. Tracking progress is your secret weapon to goal success. 4. Losing focus. There is an entire section of this book on focus. It is one of our key controllables to help us achieve anything. If we lose focus, we lose the ability to take committed action. There are all kinds of ways to lose focus, and there are 5 great tools to keep your focus, all discussed in Chapter 7. 5. Listening to the wrong people. This could technically fall under losing focus, but I want to call this to your attention as its own reason for goal failure. Listening to people who have not achieved or attempted to achieve what you are trying to achieve. They may not mean you any harm. In fact, they may be trying to help you avoid the pain they endured when they failed to achieve the goal. Be very intentional about to whom you decide to listen. 6. Procrastinating. We all procrastinate. Why do something today that can be postponed to tomorrow? This way of thinking is a trap that sets you up for long-term failure. If you learn nothing from this book, please remember this: taking daily action toward your goal is what matters most. 7. Taking the wrong actions. The definition of insanity is taking the same action yet expecting a different result. In this book, I share practices on how to use your failures as fuel to press on. Expect to make mistakes, as doing so is part of the learning process. What we want to avoid is repeating failures by not learning from them. Personal goals can be about your physical health, your family life, or simply personal to you in some other way, but they must be measurable. Saying, "I want to be happy," is not a measurable goal unless you have a unit of measurement for your happiness. For example, a way to measure your happiness could be to make a goal of doing something on a regular basis that brings you great happiness, e.g., traveling to a foreign country every year, fishing once a month, coaching your kids' sports teams, taking a weekly walk in nature. The fundamentals here are knowing what brings you happiness and then creating a unit of measurement to gauge how you'll take action on your happiness. The same rules apply for professional goals, and the more specific, the better. To help you get your creative juices flowing, here are my 10, 3, and 1 year goals. 10 years personal 1. Climb the 7 summits and ski to the North and South Poles. 2. Take my family on vacations to all 7 continents. Professional 1. Help 1% of the U.S. population achieve a goal, roughly 3.5 million people. 2. Build a goal-setting software platform that can scale to processing 1 billion goals. 3 years personal. 1. Ski to the South Pole, climb Aconcagua, and conduct a couple hikes in the Dolomites hut to hut. 2. Take a family trip to Australia and write graduation books for Charlie and John. When my boys graduate from high school, I write them personal books to help inspire them for their future goal pursuits. Professional 1. Have unstoppable mindset translated in 25 languages and sell 1 million copies. 2. Help people achieve 100,000 goals. 1 year personal 1. Climb Aconcagua and plan the South Pole adventure. 2. Complete Charlie's graduation book. Professional 1. Design, build, and test the goals software platform. 2. Complete the Unstoppable Mindset book and deliver 50 speeches on its content. Accomplishing goals, especially audacious ones that can transform your life, takes time. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and there will be lots of challenges ahead that I will help you navigate in the coming chapters. But before we turn to Chapter 2, I want you to perform the goal exercise I shared above. Warning: take time to think about it. Please write down your 10, 3, and 1-year goals below. I want you to come up with 2 personal and to professional goals for each time frame. Swim buddy, that's an order. WTU are the captain hen. We became engaged in the 90s. I promised my wife that we would live in Europe. I thought that was going to be an easy promise to fulfill because my next duty station was supposed to be in Rota, Spain, working as the operations officer of a Navy SEAL base. Shortly after getting married, I was offered the opportunity to serve a Special SEAL team. As my orders changed, so did my bride's hopes for living in Europe. In the summer of 2015, I made good on my 20-year-old promise. I had sold Perfect Fitness to a much larger consumer products company called Impulse Corporation, and over my 3 years with Impulse, I rose to president of the fitness division. We had made great strides growing the business through both acquisition and internal product development. We had just successfully sold Impulse to another private equity firm. As the deal closed, I made a decision that was completely counterintuitive to a successful career in consumer products, leaving it. I spent weeks going on long walks thinking about leaving a perfectly great job to move to Spain with our 4 kids. After lots of walks, a few restless nights, and several hours of financial planning, I resigned with 4 months' notice and prepared for a 2-year journey living in Barcelona. I could write several books on living overseas with 4 high-energy boys at the time 5, 7, 9, and 11 years old. I will save you many of the highs and lows. There were plenty of both from traveling with a family of 6 to 25 countries and 75 cities in 2 years. But there is one visit in particular that I want to share. Early in our Spanish adventures, we went to Santiago, a northwestern Spanish town, home to the end of a popular pilgrimage route called El Camino de Santiago. Santiago, the historic town, and definitely worth a visit for many reasons, from the food to history to being home to the oldest continually operated hotel in the world. But it is also the site of Spain's westernmost point of land. This location is kilometer 0, i.e., where the pilgrimage ends after starting in France. While there are several caminos one can take starting in Spain, France, or Portugal, all end at Finisterre. The term Finisterre means end of the world. Over 1,000 years ago, the Romans named this western tip of Spain Finisterre Land's End because, to them, these rolling rocks into the sea outside the town of Santiago marked the end of the earth. They had no reason to explore further. It took more than 1,500 years for explorers to challenge the Romans' belief that the world ended just west of Santiago. We all have our own Finisterre in our minds. We all have preconceptions of our limits. It's normal for us to have them. We both inadvertently and purposely develop them over our lifetimes, and if we do not challenge them, we will find ourselves living lives constrained by them. Challenging our limits doesn't happen in one large action. We must take lots of smaller actions that over time help us develop confidence in taking bigger steps to redefine our limits. I have front-loaded this book with 2 chapters on goals because the self-limits we set contribute to the boundaries of our goals. Put another way, as you read the remaining chapters of this book, I want you to test your assumed limits versus your goals. Often when first asked for their 10, 3, and 1-year goals, people make their goals too achievable. Often, 10-year goals are really somewhere between 3 and 5-year goals. 3-year goals are closer to 1-year goals, and 1-year goals are more akin to quarterly goals. Quarterly goals are where SMART goals should live, goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Too often, people believe that all goals should be SMART goals. When every goal is made with a realistic timeline, we set ourselves up for underachieving. The point of 10 and 3-year goals is to stretch your imagination about what can be done. Use SMART goal setting for those goals you need to accomplish in the short term that build to the longer-term goals. I have found two leading reasons why people unintentionally lower the bar on what they can achieve. Number 1. People are so used to setting bottom-up goals influenced by our financial reporting system, i.e., aversion to failure of quarterly goals, that, over time, they only think about goals in 90-day increments. Because of that, people stop dreaming audaciously and further into the future. Dreaming is a muscle it requires practice and will atrophy without consistent exercise. The good news is, dreaming is like riding a bike. You did it as a child, and you can do it again as an adult, but you must try. Spend time daydreaming about what you are going to do with your unstoppable mindset. Once you finish this book, there is an exercise at the end of this book that will require you to reevaluate the goals you outlined at the end of the chapter 1. As folks learn the unstoppable mindset tools, they open their minds to bigger and bolder goals, and that makes my heart sing. My mission is to help you achieve more than you originally thought was possible. After all, what good is an unstoppable mindset if you do not put it to use? Stretching your goals. I will never forget the first time I lost sight of land as the captain of a boat. I was a student in the Navy SEAL course called Long Range Over the Horizon Navigation. I was in a 15-foot-long inflatable boat with a 55-horsepower outboard. The center of the boat was filled with rubber fuel bladders, forcing us to constantly adjust our positioning so we wouldn't puncture the bladders. Our only navigational tools were a chart and small compass strapped to the boatside left pontoon. The basic theme of OTH Over the Horizon training was simple: learn to navigate small boats over long distances to arrive at exact locations at specific times. GPS systems were available, but the instructors wanted us to learn how to navigate the old-fashioned way, should our GPS not work, which is not uncommon when you mix salt water with electronics. Our initial courses were simple and relatively short, ranging between 10 and 20 nautical miles. A nautical mile is 2,000 yards, whereas a mile on your car's odometer is 1,760 yards. These courses were simple because we could aim from one side of San Diego Harbor to the next using landmarks as our navigational aids. The first couple of days were spent crisscrossing San Diego Bay, learning how to stay on course using the boat's compass at different speeds while tracking our progress using a paper chart. We would choose landmarks that we could see from our vantage point, about 4 feet above the water in calm seas. Sitting down in our boat, landmarks needed to be tall and distinct so the skipper of the craft could focus on them day or night. We would navigate the exact same daytime course at night to experience the difficulty of seeing the same landmarks at night. Water towers, radio antennas, and high-rise apartment buildings became difficult to distinguish from each other once the sun went down. After a couple of days of getting comfortable learning how to navigate our little motorized vessels both day and night within sight of land, it was time for us to leave the harbor to navigate courses over the horizon. There is this moment when you lose sight of land and you realize that you have lost the comfort of landmarks for reference points. Every direction you turn looks exactly the same. Now not only must you use different navigational tools, such as the sun and wave direction, but also the compass is no longer a nice-to-have secondary tool, but your primary navigational instrument upon which your mission depends. You guard it with your life. Suddenly, everyone in the boat became extra careful with the compass straps. We sat farther away from it and kept anything magnetic as far away from it as possible. For the next 7 days, we covered hundreds of miles, driving our little boats over the horizon, getting accustomed to navigating with limited tools and without the comfort of landmarks. It is disorienting, and if you allow your focus to drift, it can quickly become terrifying, floating in the ocean in a little boat thinking of how vulnerable you are. However, over time, you learn to trust your compass. You become comfortable with your ability to navigate long distances through rough waters in a boat that has more capabilities than you first realized. So long as you take care of your fuel and engine, you can go much farther than you ever thought was possible in a 15-foot inflatable boat. But getting to those realizations is uncomfortable because you must go beyond your original perception of what you thought was possible. That's the point. Going after a dream is much like crossing the horizon. You will find yourself, at some point, losing sight of land and the landmarks that provide you comfort. You will have to shift your focus and learn to depend on a new set of tools, one of which is your own form of a compass, namely, your heart and gut. Your fuel is your personal energy to power you day after day, pursuing a course that takes you farther away from the familiarity and comfort of your safe harbor. Your engine is your body taking actions that propel you closer to your destination, your goal. I speak to thousands of people each year about how to build an unstoppable mindset. One of the first topics is comparing the pursuit of a dream with crossing an ocean, and I ask them a question. Do you know how far you can see if you are a 6-foot-tall person standing on the sea on a dead calm day before the horizon blocks your view? People shout out, 25 miles. Or 50 kilometers. I've even heard 100 miles. The point is the horizon is much closer than you think. It's only 2.9 miles away. Yet here's the challenge. Your dream is way past the horizon. So far past that you cannot see it with your eyes. You must first see it with your mind's eye. The old adage of seeing is believing is incorrect. When you start on a course toward making a dream come true, believing becomes your compass, and the old adage turns into a new paradigm where you must first believe in order to see. There is this point on your metaphorical over-the-horizon navigation course to make your dream a reality when you lose sight of land. This point is an inflection point on your course. When you shift from the comfort zone of familiarity to the uncomfortable zone of the unknown, you shift from seeing to believing. The circle denotes this. Imagine a reline of mindset demarcation where our resolve is put to the test. It is here that we must make a decision between can and can't. Your mindset comes down to this simple yet difficult decision of whether something can or can't be done. You can press on or quit. I think of this decision-making process like the game show Wheel of Fortune, except instead of dollars and bankruptcy opportunities, we are constantly spinning to decide if we can achieve our goals. Navigational challenges and hazards. Going after a new goal is similar to crossing a new ocean. It can feel terrifying and lonely. The journey can fill you with doubt, leaving you questioning your new course. It can shake your confidence and convince you that your dream is nothing more than a foolish folly, leading you to turn around. There are 3 major moments to be aware of when pursuing your dream: starting, failing, and tiring, thinking you cannot go on. I think of these as major navigational waypoints or milestones, and I want you to be aware of them as you contemplate leaving your own harbor of familiarity. When I use the term harbor, I am referring to your current state of familiarity. In other words, your comfort zone. It's a natural state for us to seek pleasure and avoid pain. In everything we do, we naturally seek comfort. The comfort zone is not a bad place unless it holds us back from realizing our full potential. It is key to recognize when we have reached a level of comfort or familiarity or mastery in a particular skill. If we are not careful, we allow ourselves to get lulled into a false sense of security and believe we are good enough and stop plotting course to new ports. Like ships built to be at sea, we are built to be in motion. The moment we stop is the moment our systems start to rust. In SEAL Team, we often refer to a skill as a perishable skill. Simply put, use it or lose it. This tenet of practice is critical to your success. The more you work toward your goal, the better you'll become, and the closer you will get to achieving it. That's why the first challenge is building a habit of doing the work daily toward your dream. The path to every dream has these 3 detours: starting, failing, and tiring waiting for you. In keeping with our ship's metaphor, I think of them like this: leaving the harbor, losing sight of land, and dealing with darkness. Leaving the harbor, when people hear I was the Navy SEAL who invented the perfect push-up, I often hear, "Wow, what an overnight success." The fact is I did not invent the perfect push-up alone. There were about 10 people involved, and it was an overnight success that took nearly 10 years. I did not start my entrepreneurial fitness journey thinking that we would be running infomercials selling handheld fitness devices. My team also invented the perfect pull-up, perfect sit-up, and the perfect off-carver. But I did start it knowing I wanted to launch products that would help people take control of their bodies and, in doing so, would in some way help them take control of their lives. In the beginning, my starting point was carving out 30 minutes of time after dinner each night to sketch product ideas. Each night as I sat down at our kitchen table in our studio apartment in San Francisco, I thought about making a little progress toward my faraway destination of being an Inc. 500 CEO, founder who created a company based on ideas that helped other people. I wanted the experience of creating a new, to-the-world product and bringing it to market. That was my original goal, and my daily action was sketching each night until I had come up with an idea that I could take to a draftsman designer who could help bring my drawings to life. I figured that once I had some professional drawings, I might attract investors, a manufacturer, and, hopefully, a partner. It took me over a year to leave the harbor and get that first idea sketched out so others could get an understanding of what was bouncing around in my head. Losing sight of land go away. You the man I had driven 6 hours to see. Before I could respond, he followed with, "I'm done working with inventors. I have a drawer full of my own ideas to work on." The man barking at me was world-class designer Stephen G. Hauser. He and his team of designers had helped bring to market over 700 products, from medical devices to business machines and more. His design studio was known around the world for designing the best products, and I wanted him to help us design our fitness product. I had driven from San Francisco to Los Angeles in my VW with 20 pounds of modeling clay piled on my wife's cutting board. The clay, which was poorly molded and already cracking from the heat in the trunk, represented my best attempt to showcase the fitness idea. Bouncing around in my head, I persisted, telling him I had driven down from the Bay Area so I could spend 10 minutes with him. "Sir, would you just give me 10 minutes to show you my idea?" He looked at me like he had just seen a ghost and asked, "Did you just call me sir?" "Yes, I did, sir." His demeanor changed, and he suddenly became curious. "What's your background? I mean, what have you done in your life?" "My first job was serving in the Navy, sir." He looked at me, eyes wide, and smiled as he said, "The Navy saved my life. I'll give you 10 minutes, but not a second more." That was the beginning of a glorious friendship that continues to this day. Steve Hauser, at the time of our meeting, was one of only 50 Industrial Design Society of America Fellows. He is a living legend in the world of industrial design, and he taught me the basics of taking an idea from a napkin to production. His first rule is, prepare to fail a lot. Another key rule is don't get attached to your initial idea, which I learned the hard way. More on that later. Whether you are trying to bring a product to market or you are trying out for a new team, mistakes are part of the process. The challenge becomes not letting the mistakes define you. Once you get started and you have left your proverbial harbor and headed over the horizon toward your dream, prepare to embrace failure. As you pick up steam and start making consistent progress toward your goal, you will face failure. I think of this obstacle like losing sight of land in your little boat, where you may feel all alone, and even frightened, as challenges start coming at you from every direction. Speaking of direction, you can get quickly confused about the direction you should be traveling. I drove down to see Mr. Hauser confident that I had a specific product direction. By the time he finished asking me questions, my head was spinning with possibilities that left me questioning my original direction. After we nailed down the features and functions for our product, we started prototyping. I was convinced that we would only have to do one prototype. Boy, was I wrong. 2 years later, and probably 20 different product variants, we finally had a product rev we could bring to market. Over a 3.5 year period, I failed so many times that I lost count. As a matter of fact, I remember asking our small team, "Okay, what's our failure of the week this week?" We started joking about how many different things we would fail at. This is an extreme example of failing. Perhaps not as extreme as Thomas Edison's "I learned 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb" story, but for me, it was the most failing I had ever experienced, and I was no stranger to failing. I have failed at lots of different things, from classes at the Naval Academy to failing pool competency at basic underwater demolition, SEAL Bud, twice, to failing in graduate school, in business, as a husband, father, and as a leader of charitable organizations. However, and I really stress however, I do not let failing stop me. I will pivot, tack, veer, turn, switch, change direction, and give blood, but I do not let failing hold me back. This is doubt's second trap, to convince you after you failed a few times that your dream is not possible or worth pursuing. It is doubt's trap to trick you into losing your belief and, hence, your goal and focus. I will arm with some powerful weapons to help you transform failing into fuel for your persistence engines. As a matter of fact, be more concerned if you are not failing, because that means you aren't pushing hard enough. For example, every time we bring a new product to market, we figure out how to break it. When I write a book, I write thousands, as in tens of thousands, more words than I know will make the cut. When I come up with a new product idea, I immediately think of all the ways it can fail. Succeeding is based on learning from failing. You need the strength from the struggle of failure to help you reach the horizon of success. Experts fail more than amateurs try. Enough said. Darkest before dawn. Nearly 4 years after Stephen Hauser developed our product and we had raised $1.5 million, we found ourselves with less than $25,000 left. We were broke. We did not have enough money to pay the manufacturer, our accountant, or even our lawyers. Some of our investors said the only path forward was bankruptcy. We had worked for almost 4 years on a product that clearly was not working. Every expert seemed to say the same thing: "You are out of money, go bankrupt and get a job." It was a truly dark moment, and the more we focused on how dark it was, the darker it got for us. I knew from my days in SEAL training that the more we focused on the negative, the more negative our thinking would become. And I also knew that many times the darkest of times means that dawn is just around the corner. I think of it like flipping on a mental light switch, a switch that illuminates possibilities. Whether you are out at sea or deep down your path to accomplishing your dream, finding yourself stuck in darkness and feeling surrounded by hopelessness is a key phase of the journey. Flipping that mental switch is hard, and is in part why I wrote this book. I want to teach you how to flip that switch, because when your proverbial darkness occurs while pursuing your dream, it can become very easy to focus on your pain and suffering in that moment. I am using darkest before dawn as a metaphor for the third obstacle in your mental journey to find success. How many times have you heard the story of someone trying and then giving up, only to discover they were so close to their goal? There will come this moment when you start shifting your focus to the pain of trying and failing, trying and not making progress, or trying and finding the pursuit getting harder. You might begin questioning yourself, wondering, how much more can I handle? That's the darkness creeping in, and it brings doubt along with it. Doubt will get you thinking you have run out of steam and that you can't keep going. In David Goggins' book, Can't Break Me, the former SEAL theorizes that on average the moment you think you can't go any farther means you're only around 40% spent, meaning you have another 60% to go. Once you break through that limitation, you will discover that it was nothing more than your own glass ceiling. You will realize this is your darkest before dawn moment. It will not stop you. Instead, it will fuel you to press on. When you learn to overcome this final hurdle, you will discover that the subsequent journeys will become easier because you will not fall victim to doubt when you are starting, failing, or tiring. The first technique to conquering these obstacles is being aware of them. As you learn to harness the power of your focus with this book, you will be able to put these obstacles in perspective, deprive them of attention, i.e., energy, and keep your focus on taking the actions required to succeed. I am a visual learner. The moment I learn a new concept, I immediately think of it in detailed pictures. When it comes to thinking about these obstacles and pursuing dreams, I map them to crossing the horizon, using the same horizon illustration from earlier in this chapter. Here is how I map the 3 obstacles that we all face when embarking on achieving something new to us. 1. Starting. The biggest challenge is just showing up. Mark Twain's insight is as true today as it was over 100 years ago. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. Woulda, shoulda, couldas. Show up at the start and prevent so many from even trying to go after their dreams. The key action is taking the first step. 2. Failing. Once you leave the harbor and encounter the rough seas and uncharted waters, sticking to your course can be difficult, while changing course as you learn new skills is to be expected. Failing tests your resolve and makes you stronger and smarter as long you use your failures as learning opportunities. 3. Tiring. We are human, and we all need to recharge. Feeling like we have run out of steam happens to everyone as they are persisting. Keep tiring in perspective and use those moments to recharge, take a break, or fuel up. Oftentimes, the best fuel comes from reviewing your progress, even if your progress is a series of lessons learned from failing. Fuel or anchor, it's your call to overcome these 3 mindset obstacles and cross your metaphorical ocean to reach your new desired destination. Achieve your goal. You must activate a series of your ship's components that will act as either fuel to propel you forward or anchor to hold you back. Each of us has these components. The reason not all of us use them is because they require us to make a series of decisions each and every day to use them. This decision is the single most important leadership role you have, leading yourself and your 3 mindset controllables that are the difference makers in your success. These controllables are thoughts, focus, and beliefs. There are very few things we can control in life, but the few things we can control are enough to change our course. This entire book is about helping you harness the power of these controllables to activate your potential to turn your dreams into your new reality. Our thoughts, focus, and beliefs influence each other to drive us to take actions that will determine our direction. Think of them interacting in a loop, what I call a mindset loop. Our thoughts, focus, and beliefs can lift us up and fill us with hope, or they can push us down into the depths of despair where hopelessness lives. Yet they are ours to control, and control them we must if we want to cross the horizon to our new dream destination. Your 3 controllables interact with each other as depicted above. Thoughts direct your focus, focus drives an action, and beliefs power your thoughts. It doesn't matter where you enter the loop. Allow your focus to shift from positive to negative, and it will impact what you believe, which in turn will produce corresponding negative thoughts to keep your focus on fueling more negativity. Your mindset loop can start with a belief you have carried with you for years, a belief that acts like an anchor that keeps you stuck in the muck of the harbor of mediocrity. Your thoughts and focus remain anchored to that limiting belief until you cut yourself free from it. Conversely, your thoughts can change your mindset loop's focus and replace an old limiting belief, such as it can't be achieved, with a new, empowering one, such as we can do this. Each component of the mindset loop has its own energy and will influence the other. Momentum builds in either a helpful or hurtful direction toward your goal. For the purposes of teaching you how to make your mindset loop an unstoppable force for achieving your goals, I organized the following chapters to follow the mindset loop in a clockwise fashion, starting with thoughts, then focus, and ending with beliefs, and I will describe how they all work together. A 3 mind setting for years, I finally stood before the creature at the bud, S training in Coronado, California. A relic from the 1950s horror film The Creature from the Black Lagoon, it was modified with a frogman web acronym that refers to the three environments we operate in: sea, air, and land. On average, it takes 2 years to actually see the creature. If you enlist in the Navy and attend basic boot camp, SEAL candidates must pass several tests, including a physical fitness test (PFT), which they take at least 3 times before starting BUD. Upon arrival at BUD, instructors administer the PFT again. After passing the PFT, candidates enter a 7-week prephase training group called Fourth Phase, where they learn SEAL basics and receive special attention from instructors, such as how to be a sugar cookie, wet and sandy for long periods of time. At the end of our 7th week, we gathered in front of the creature before taking the PFT one more time. As we stood silently in formation, the senior instructor of First Phase, nicknamed Instructor Half-Butt to a Vietnam tour injury, walked out of his office and stopped in front of the creature. He loved to remind us that he could do more with his half-butt than we could with our full ones. He stood before us, scanning our formation and speaking softly with a Southern. It's just hard, 'cause you just gotta decide what you're gonna focus on: the pain of training and the pleasure it can provide. He waited for a moment as he let his comments settle in and then said, I know for a fact that over 80% of you are gonna focus on the pain of training. You know why? He waited again, because y'all been focusing. He waited for another moment as he watched our feeble responses to his rhetorical question. You know what my job is. It's to create a conversation in here. He raised his right index finger to his temple, a conversation that will drive you to make a decision about what you are going to focus on, the pain or the pleasure of training. He went on for a little while longer, discussing how he would treat us, like the making of a samurai sword, where the swordsmith heats up the metal, pounds on it, and then submerges it in cold water, and repeats that process about 2,000 times. He urged us to reflect on our reasons for being here and what we were willing to give. After his speech, we took our final PFT test to qualify for SEAL training. Only 64 of us passed. Nearly 50% failed. Despite having passed the test multiple times before, those who failed had listened to the wrong voice. A 3-mind setting for 4 years, I finally stood before the creature at the BUD.'s training in Coronado, California. A relic from the 1950s horror film The Creature from the Black Lagoon, it was modified with a frogman web acronym that refers to the three environments we operate in: sea, air, and land. On average, it takes 2 years to actually see the creature. If you enlist in the Navy and attend basic boot camp, SEAL candidates must pass several tests, including a physical fitness test (PFT), which they take at least 3 times before starting BUD. Upon arrival at BUD, instructors administer the PFT again. After passing the PFT, candidates enter a 7-week prephase training group called Fourth Phase, where they learn SEAL basics and receive special attention from instructors, such as how to be a sugar cookie, wet and sandy for long periods of time. At the end of our 7th week, we gathered in front of the creature before taking the PFT one more time. As we stood silently in formation, the senior instructor of First Phase, nicknamed Instructor Half-Butt to a Vietnam tour injury, walked out of his office and stopped in front of the creature. He loved to remind us that he could do more with his half-butt than we could with our full ones. He stood before us, scanning our formation and speaking softly with a Southern. It's just hard, 'cause you just gotta decide what you're gonna focus on, the pain of training and the pleasure it can provide. He waited for a moment as he let his comments settle in and then said, I know for a fact that over 80% of you are gonna focus on the pain of training. You know why? He waited again, because y'all been focusing. He waited for another moment as he watched our feeble responses to his rhetorical question. You know what my job is. It's to create a conversation in here. He raised his right index finger to his temple, a conversation that will drive you to make a decision about what you are going to focus on, the pain or the pleasure of training. He went on for a little while longer, discussing how he would treat us, like the making of a samurai sword, where the swordsmith heats up the metal, pounds on it, and then submerges it in cold water, and repeats that process about 2,000 times. He urged us to reflect on our reasons for being here and what we were willing to give. After his speech, we took our final PFT test to qualify for SEAL training. Only 64 of us passed. Nearly 50% failed. Despite having passed the test multiple times before, those who failed had listened to the wrong voice. The conversation of two competing voices, mixed emotions filled the air as our SEAL instructor read out the class-up list of SEAL candidates who qualified to start official SEAL training on Monday. We had bonded over 7 weeks of beach runs, physical training, obstacle courses, swimming, and room inspections. A few injuries had occurred, but no had one technically dropped out by ringing the bell. However, 58 classmates effectively quit by failing to pass the PFT. Their reactions ranged from excuses such as just not my day or I wasn't feeling it to some admitting they no longer wanted it. Instructor Half-Butt emphasized the importance of the conversation, the internal struggle between believing we can or cannot achieve something. This dialogue was crucial in deciding whether to commit to the challenges of SEAL training and the sacrifices required to reach our goals. He made it clear that success wasn't complicated, it was simply hard. Years later, I named the two voices in this conversation the whiner and the winner. Regardless of the situation, these voices arise in us when we attempt something new or challenging. If we are not careful, we will allow the whiner to initiate a chain reaction within our mindset loop where negative thoughts will influence our focus and reinforce negative beliefs that will doom our ability to take successful actions toward our goal. Remember that our thoughts, focus, and beliefs determine our direction. The challenge lies in overcoming the whiner's fear-driven arguments against pursuing our dreams, which are full of uncertainty and require sacrifice. Learning to take charge of these voices is what I call mindsetting. an active management of owning the necessary thoughts that positively influence our focus and beliefs to help us succeed. This is the first crucial lesson in building an unstoppable mindset. This chapter is all about helping you identify the various voices of the whiner and the winner and how to embrace them to help you overcome obstacles on your course to success. The whiner, you know, that high-pitched tone a child uses to complain about something, such as, "Why do I have to eat my vegetables? Why do I have to clean my room? Why do I have to go to school today?" Or a similar tone used when stating their unwillingness to perform a task such as, "I don't want to go, I don't want to do it." You know that voice, the one that makes you wince when you hear it. That's the voice I think of in my head when thinking about making a decision that will require me to expend energy doing something where the outcome is unknown. This is the voice of the whiner. The whiner has several tools at its disposal. I think of these tools as different types of voices and call them the doubter, the complainer, the procrastinator, the hypothesizer, and the quitter. The doubter often appears when attempting new challenges, aiming to prevent us from taking the starting actions with thoughts such as, "Do you know how hard this is going to be? Why do you think you can do this? You're not good enough, or you have no chance." By making progress and building confidence, we can silence the whiner. Sometimes the doubter voice doesn't come from within, but from people around us. I often heard, "Alden, you are kidding yourself, you don't have enough experience, or you're gonna get crushed, or you have snowball's chance in hell of making it." When I decided to try out for the prestigious Kent School Boat Club KSBC rowing team in high school, my friends were skeptical. Given my limited experience and the fierce competition I'd face, securing a spot on the team seemed impossible. However, I resolved to try and became selective about who I spent time with, avoiding those who amplified the whiner's voice. Months before the official tryouts, I consistently trained at the boathouse, facing the doubter's voice every day. Despite the mental struggle, I persisted, and the doubt diminished as I developed a daily workout habit. A senior, Charlie Pruce, noticed my dedication and invited me to be his workout partner. This partnership boosted my confidence, enabling me to push myself harder and subdue the whiner's doubt. Though the doubter lingered, working out with someone as positive as Charlie helped me take significant strides toward overcoming my inner obstacles. The complainer, we all possess the voice of a complainer that amplifies our doubts when facing uncertainty. It screeches as we leave our comfort zones, urging us to revert to familiarity and conserve energy. Fueled by negativity bias, the complainer's primary goal is to keep us safe from potential harm. Thoughts like "this is harder than I thought," or "I'm not good at this," are just a few examples of the complainer's influence. When we repeatedly fail despite our best efforts, the complainer emerges, harshly criticizing every misstep. "You suck at this. Who are you kidding?" Or "Get real. You shouldn't be here." We often speak to ourselves more severely than what we would tolerate from others. Discard those condescending thoughts. They're merely the complaints of the whiner, magnifying your struggles while learning something new. Remember, it's natural to face difficulties when developing new skills. Our brains need frustration to form new neural pathways. So, when the complainer starts nagging, smile and embrace the challenge, knowing you're on the path to growth and success. The procrastinator, what's your book going to be about? Honey, my wife, Jennifer, inquired as she gently caressed her basketball-sized belly. "I'm going to write a book to celebrate the birth of our first child. It will be a collection of lessons I've learned while pursuing my dreams," I declared with pride as we sat at the dinner table, discussing our goals for 2003 on New Year's Eve. 2002. Fast forward for children and 10 years, and the book I had envisioned was finally published on November 14, 2013. In that time, I had become exceptionally skilled at procrastination, and quite frankly, if it hadn't been for my desire to change careers, I'm not sure I would have ever written that book. The whiner has a sly and sinister voice that excels at encouraging us to procrastinate at taking an action or at committing with our full agency. I hear this voice almost every morning when my alarm goes off, saying, "You don't have to work out this morning. You can do it in the afternoon, or take a rest and watch the game. You can write extra tomorrow, or what's the rush?" Don't be deceived by this voice or by friends who persuade you to adopt the mindset of why do today what you can put off until tomorrow. It's not the act of procrastinating itself that hinders you. Rather, it's the failure to form a habit of taking new daily actions that ultimately prevents you from achieving your dreams. The hypothesizer, the whiner's main weapon is negativity, which has a potent impact on our mindsates. It takes 3 positive comments to counteract 1 negative comment. Consider how negative narratives can be compared to launching a product on Amazon, where it takes multiple 5-star reviews to offset a single 1-star review. Get to many 1-star reviews and your product is destined not to sell. Similarly, pursuing a dream is like launching a product. Too many negative thoughts, think of them as 1-star reviews, can lead to abandoning your goals. The whiner uses negative hypotheticals to amplify negativity or a negative outcome and focus your mind on future hardships. In SEAL training, instructors use negative hypotheticals to encourage quitting. They will discuss a future final physical test like drown-proofing, where you must swim 300 yards with your hands tied behind your back and your feet bound together. They will then call out your inability to swim well and ask questions such as, "Sir, how do you honestly believe you will pass drown-proofing if you barely pass the regular swim test?" Using logic based on some past result, they will get you thinking negatively about something in the future. Focus on that long enough, and you will hypothesize that you should not even try because your situation is hopeless. That is the danger of the hypothesizer, creating a negative narrative about something in the future that compels you to quit before you ever begin. While the stakes aren't always as high as quitting something outright, negative hypotheticals can gradually plant seeds of doubt in our minds, either stopping us before we begin or eroding our determination to persevere. The Quitter Midshipman Mills. To save us both time and pain, I've prepared this document for you, said my new Naval Academy company officer, handing me my separation papers. His beady eyes, magnified by thick glasses, stared at me intensely as he continued, "This isn't the school for you. Your record shows max demerits for a senior, yet you have 2 years left. 1 more infraction and you're out, which will likely occur within 2 weeks. I've had successful sea tour and plan to win the color company here. Your performance won't be tolerated, and I'll actively seek your expulsion." Tempted to quit, but determined not to give in, I replied, "No, sir, I'm not signing it." That conversation still reminds me of the temptation to quit. Many of us have experienced similar moments, we or another naysayer, reasoning that appeals to our sensible selves, suggesting we can't do something and that quitting is no big deal. But don't be fooled, this is the voice of the whiner's secret agent, the quitter. Recognize that voice, then shift your attention to the winner inside you. You might initially take ineffective or wrong actions, but use those lessons to try again. Don't quit. Don't let external voices or your inner whiner convince you to give up on your dream. Embrace the challenges and continue pursuing your goals, knowing that every obstacle is an opportunity to learn and grow stronger. The winner, if the whiner were a person, it would be a younger version of me, while the winner is an older, wiser me who is calm and reassuring. My first experience with the winner was during my sophomore year in high school at spring training for the rowing team. After months of workouts with my senior mentor, Charlie, I made the Kent School Boat Club spring training trip. We rowed twice daily for 10 days to determine our boat positions. I had never experienced varsity-level rowing before, and within a week, my hands were severely blistered from the wooden oars. I developed a fever due to the infections and was sent to a local medical clinic. The nurse cleaned my wounds, taped them up, and gave me antibiotics, advising I take a week of rest. Knowing this would cost me my spot on the team, I decided to continue rowing. Assistant coach Eric Houston informed me that I'd be seat racing that afternoon, a brutal competition determining my position on the team. As I grappled with the pain and doubt, Charlie encouraged me, saying, "Alden, time to make all those winter days training in the boathouse count." No one had ever confronted me with such brutal honesty about my situation and its consequences. It was all up to me. I thought back to our winter workouts in the boathouse basement, challenging each other in bucket workouts until we puked. Now, my decision to row or not would determine the outcome of all those hours of training. My hands were infected, swollen, and oozing pus. I knew people would understand if I didn't row. I asked myself, how can I row with these hands? I realized the claw-like position they'd taken being wrapped in bandages was similar to the position they were in when holding an oar. So I called Charlie for help, and he taped my hands into rowing claws. At practice, the assistant coach looked skeptical, but let me row anyway. The initial strokes hurt, but my hands eventually went numb. After an hour of drills, we began seat races. My hands worsened with each race, the tape unraveling and exposing raw flesh. Finally, it was my turn to race for the bow seat. As I swapped seats with Tris Coburn, whom I was racing against, he grimaced at my oar, for it was coated in blood and pus. The rough wood and sulby sweat intensified my pain. Each stroke felt worse than the last, and I questioned if I could continue. In the middle of the race, a tugboat's wake drenched us, soaking my hands and filling both boats with water. Our coach yelled, "Way enough," rowing slang for stop, and as if on cue, burning pain shot up my arms. It was so intense that I bit my bottom lip to hold back, making a sound of anguish. We spent a couple of minutes bailing water out of the boats in preparation for continuing the remaining 2 minutes of the seat race. It was during those moments when I heard the winner voice. It was a soft, firm voice urging me on, reminding me of Charlie's encouragement, "Pain is temporary. Pride lasts forever," a favorite quotation of his. The more intently I focused on that empowering voice, the more can-do thoughts surfaced. I started mumbling to myself, "Alden, you got this," again and again. Just saying it kept my mind off the pain at that moment. As the race started again, I was overwhelmed by pain. Tears began to flow, but I rationalized, "No one can tell I'm crying, I'm soaking wet, so go ahead, cry all you want." An energetic surge swelled within me as I started embracing the discomfort, transforming it into a source of joy. My mindset shifted from dreading each stroke to eagerly anticipating the next one. How much more can I make it hurt? I challenged myself. Come on, I want more. I could hear another favorite saying of Charlie's, "Pain is weakness leaving the body." I sought ways to turn the pain into pleasure. The more I tuned into the encouraging voice, the more the discouraging one faded. Soon, I found myself smiling through my tears, an odd sensation. Despite the pain, I was enjoying the experience and winning the race. Moments later, the race ended, and I had earned my seat while uncovering a powerful force within myself. Unbeknownst to me, I was practicing mind setting during the race. I was, second by second, actively seeking out thoughts that were helpful to the success I was seeking, in this case, to pull as hard I could on that oar while trying to earn my seat on the team. My empowering voice was the winner. This voice is often difficult to hear because the whiner, fueled by fear, is so obnoxiously loud. The whiner bombards you with all its various voices of fear. However, the winner's driving force, the emotion of love, can overcome the whiner, but it requires your awareness of the stakes at the moment. The whiner seeks immediacy of the moment, such as stop the pain, avoid extra effort, take the easy path. The winner is focused on the longer-term pleasure of what the moment might provide you. It is important to understand the power source of these two competing voices, fear and love. The whiner is grounded by fear, while the winner is fueled by love. In this chapter, I've outlined 5 different fear-driven voices. There are probably more. For me, making light of these voices helps me accept them for what they are and move beyond them. Over the past 40 years, I've identified to key expressions of love for the winner voice, passion, and purpose. By the end of this chapter, you will be able to distinguish between the elemental voices that are trying to stop you and those that are helping you succeed. This is mind setting. I like to think of these two elements as the oars on either side of your personal boat. If you have only one oar in the water, you'll find yourself going in circles, but once both oars are engaged, you'll make forward progress. For the sake of discussion, imagine passion as the port oar left side and purpose as the starboard oar right side. It doesn't matter which comes first, both are essential to overcoming any obstacle that fear throws your way. Whether you find passion in your purpose or purpose in your passion, these two forces can propel you past all of fear's manifestations. Winning with passion. I've always been drawn to water. Perhaps it's from my childhood summers spent on a small New England lake and Cape Cod. Or maybe it's the weightlessness while swimming or the mystery of diving into the unknown. Regardless, I was always eager to try water-related activities. My passion for rowing began when I first saw tortoise racing down the Housatonic River in Kent, Connecticut. Instantly, I felt a connection and knew it was my sport. I often reference that rowing experience during Florida tryouts when taking risks in new directions. It was the boldest move I had ever made up to that point in my life, and I still feel that whispering passion inside me today. It felt like an inner voice guiding me. People often say, trust your gut or follow your heart, but tuning into that frequency can be difficult with our minds constantly chattering. Recent neuroscience research has taught us that our brains have roughly 80 billion neurons that are responsible for processing thoughts and sending signals to our body to take action. Interestingly, our hearts and guts also have neurons approximately 200 to 600 million and 40,000, respectively. 3. These neurons help us make decisions by transmitting different types of communication, logic from the brain, emotions from the heart, and desires, instincts from the gut. For the heart and gut have roles to play.